Hello, David Snowpeck here from Snowpeck Games, and this is my 6th and final devlog about my crazy project to fix up Retro Tank Party and release it on Steam in only 6 weeks. But don't worry, it's not the last devlog about Retro Tank Party in general, just of this project. So, what is Retro Tank Party? It is an online 2 to 4 player multiplayer game built in Godot using the Nakama game server. The game was released last week on my birthday on April 20th, 2021. We had a game launch day stream that went amazing. It was so much fun. You can watch the recording on YouTube if you're curious, but I had like the best birthday ever. Thanks to everyone who participated in that stream. It was amazing. So, in this video, I want to do a post-mortem about this project to talk about it as a whole, like what things went well, what things went badly, and talk about future plans for the game. So, things that went well. I actually released a commercial game on Steam on the day that I said I would. So, that's something. I can cross that off the bucket list. Also, I learned a ton. I have loads of material for new tutorials that I'm going to put up on YouTube and snowpackgames.com. I'm going to make at least 3 new videos for my Godot and GitLab CI tutorial series. One about pushing to Steam automatically via GitLab CI, automatically notarizing macOS builds with Apple, and automatically code signing Windows builds. But aside from GitLab CI, I'd like to make a tutorial about Steam login with Godot and Nakama, and WebRTC networking with Godot using Nakama as a signaling server. I have an asset on the Godot asset library to make that pretty easy to do, which is used in this game, and I've been meaning for like a year to make a tutorial about how to use that, so I really want to finally get around to that now that I have a commercial game as an example that's using it. So all of those are coming soon. And another thing that went really well was just playtesting and all of the other help that I got from various folks. Some I know in real life, others just through the internet or like friends of friends. So thanks to everyone who helped out. I definitely would not have been able to pull this off without all of your help, so thank you. Now, things that went kind of badly. So not enough time, too much crunch. Given the state of the game when I started, 6 weeks was just insane. It was insane. I was overworked and underslept basically the full 6 weeks. And actually, like, very little of that time went into gameplay improvements. It was like UI, settings, figuring out how to properly make releases and sign them and upload them to Steam, fixing bugs, music, sound, and just other polish. Improvements to the backend server, and of course setting up the Steam page and making the trailer and all of that. There were some gameplay improvements, but for the most part, it was just a more polished version of the game that already existed. Oh, and macOS. macOS. Man, the game is working great on macOS right now, but I swear, in total, probably like 1 whole week of the 6 weeks went into fixing macOS issues, like not all at once, but just like all the time, split up through the whole project. Like macOS building problems, the whole macOS notarization thing, bugs that only happened on macOS. Oh, it was a pain. It was a huge pain. I mean, I'm glad that I have it now, but man, did that just like eat up a lot of time and just anxiety. And the final thing that went wrong. Negative reviews. So back in my first devlog about this project when I was announcing it, I said that my biggest fear wasn't that no one would buy the game, but that some people would buy the game, but be super angry at how bad it was, and like the Steam algorithm would decide that I'm a bad game developer and make it really hard for me to release future games on Steam because I had this game with terrible reviews. And like, unfortunately, to a certain degree, to like a minimal degree, that fear, my biggest fear, did kind of come true. There are 2 negative reviews on the game. And unfortunately, those are like the only reviews that count for the Steam algorithm and the game's review score. So like up here, it says 2 user reviews. And then you start scrolling down to the reviews, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 positive reviews, and then these 2 negative reviews. It's only these 2 negative reviews that actually count towards the Steam algorithm and the game's like review score. And that's like because I gave the game away to like lots of people. All the people who gave the positive reviews were people who were involved in beta testing and actually played the game like a lot. Like everyone on here has like several hours of playing the game. So I feel like the review should count. But because they got the game for free, it doesn't, go into Steam's algorithm. Anyway, looking at these negative reviews, there's actually some really interesting takeaways. So while they felt bad to read, it never feels nice to read a negative review. I think underneath there are some valid points about the game. So let's take a look at these really quick. So this first one, this reviewer spends a lot of time just trying to sound funny and clever. Like, I quickly exclaimed to my colleague that we must buy and then download this game at once. Deprived of our main source of energy, cans of Pepsi, blah, 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 blah. It just kind of goes on like that. But the useful part of it, first off, the controls are worse than We Play Tanks, which is the standard to which we are holding this game. Hoping perhaps that the gameplay would help us overlook the horrendous movement, we were wrong. And the second one, this one is much more direct and much more useful. This game has pretty awful controls, which can't be changed, which is a shame. This game feels very incomplete overall. If you want a good tank game, go play We Play with the Tanks minigame. This game should be free. Pro tip, you actually can get the game for free. It's for sale not only on Steam, but also on itch.io. And on itch.io, it's pay what you want. And you could want to pay nothing for it and get the game for free. I'd rather you didn't pay nothing for it, especially because it's so cheap. It's more like just making me feel good money. But if that was the only way that you could get the game, like if getting it for free was the only way that you would be willing to get it, I'd much rather have you get it and play the game. Anyway, he goes on to say, maybe add bots, a challenge arena, fix the awful camera shake when getting hit. The camera shake you can actually disable in a settings screen. It's always been that way. And maybe zoom the camera out a bit so I'm not blindly running around. And that last one, is definitely not something that I'm going to directly address. Having the camera zoomed in so you have incomplete information is part of the game design. Although I have been thinking about adding power-ups that let you see further or get some other idea of where the other players are through a power-up, not just by letting you see the whole thing always. Anyway, so here's my takeaways from these two negative reviews. So the first one is Mismatched Expectations. Both reviewers compared the game to We Play Tanks, which I hadn't actually played before, but I had watched videos of it on YouTube. Like when I was trying to figure out the sound for the Tanks engine in Retro Tank Party, I watched a bunch of videos of other games featuring tanks as inspiration, and I made this little list of ones that had tank sounds that I liked, and We Play Tanks was actually on that list. But it's a very, very different game. After these reviews, the day after, I ordered We Play on Amazon, and I've been playing it with my daughters as research. Now that this is a commercial game, this is totally work playing We Play Tanks, right? Anyway, they're very different games. So Retro Tank Party is a tank battle game with retro lineage all the way back to Combat on the Atari 2600. So you're in an arena. The only thing there is the other players, and you're trying to kill each other. We Play Tanks, on the other hand, is a cooperative multiplayer game where you're advancing through a series of levels attacking enemy tanks. There is a competitive scoring aspect to it, but it's not PvP. It's you're trying to advance through these stages and get a high score, and the only way to do that really is to collaborate. So if you came to the game wanting We Play Tanks, if that's the experience you were expecting, you're going to be disappointed. So I think more could have been done to set the proper expectations, because there were clearly some mismatched expectations here. Controls. So both negative reviews referred to the controls. Retro Tank Party uses what is called tank controls. If you're not familiar with this term, it means that up moves your character forward relative to the position they are facing, and down moves them backward, and left and right just rotates them. So if you're facing to the right, this is my right, I don't know what it'll be in the video, and you press up, you will move right. You won't move up, you'll move right. If you're facing to the left, you press up, you'll move left. In more modern control schemes, pressing up would move your character up on the screen regardless of which way your character was pointing originally. It would just rotate the character automatically and move them up. And that's the kind of control scheme, this more modern control scheme, is what We Play Tanks uses. On the other hand, tank controls are super retro, which kind of fits in with the name Retro Tank Party. But of course, nobody likes tank controls. I don't even like tank controls in most games. But in this game, you're like literally driving a tank. It's a tank! And for me, it just feels right to drive a tank with tank controls. And that could be because for me, like combat on the Atari 2600 is retro. And for these reviewers, maybe We Play Tanks is retro. Like it came out in 2006, which is already 15 years ago, and that could totally be retro for somebody. Like this could be an age difference thing, that like my idea of retro is just older than their idea of retro. But I think I need to include the ability to switch to a more modern control scheme for these more modern players. So in the next patch, there's going to be a setting to switch the control scheme. And the third and final takeaway is that you need multiple players to find the fun in this game. And this game is fun. Like, I know it's fun. I've had hours of fun playing it. But if you're only playing by yourself, you literally can't play the game. It's multiplayer only. With 2 players, it can be fun. If both players are in the right mood and are of a similar skill level, it can totally be fun. But it very well might not be, right? You need to play with 3 or 4 players to really experience the game as it is intended. So the game is just not setting itself up with new players in a position for them to fully experience what makes this game fun. And I don't think it makes sense to implement like a single player or co-op campaign mode. Like that's just a whole different game. But I do think it makes sense to add AI players, bots. So one player would actually have something to do, like it all. They can be one human player with 3 bots, and in a 2-player match, they can pad out the player list with a bunch of bots, so that it's more likely that they'll have fun, that they'll have the intended experience. And I don't know why this didn't occur to me earlier on, but I think this is a risk for any multiplayer game. How do you help new players find the fun in your game if they only have 1 or no friends to play with? If you're making a multiplayer-only game, I think you probably should spend some time thinking about this, and I didn't. So I don't think I'll be able to add AI players in the next patch, but I'd like to try and address it in the patch after that. So speaking of the next patch, it's already in the works. My plan is to add a bunch of new content, the new control scheme, like I already mentioned, 3 or 4 new power-ups, including the idea of secondary power-ups. That's actually, I was working on that earlier today. And what that means is all of the current power-ups are like just different kinds of bullets, different things that you shoot. And I'd like to have secondary power-ups, which are more like abilities, like a speed boost or a defensive shield or something. So I'm going to add that, including a bunch of those. Team play, so you can do like 2v2, 1v3, whatever, rather than just every tank for themselves. And at least 1 new team-based game mode. I'm thinking something like soccer or capture the flag, and a new map just for team-based play. So this doesn't go too far to making the game better for new players, but I think it will make the game even more fun for existing players who already like the game. As far as progress, I already have 1 new power-up in the game's alpha branch, a sort of laser proton cannon-like thing that bounces off of obstacles. If you go watch the stream on launch day, we were testing it out and playing around with that. And team-based scoring for the existing game modes. I don't really know when this patch will be finished, when it'll be out. I'm not setting any more crazy deadlines for myself, but I don't think it'll be too long. It shouldn't take too much time. If you want to help test it, join the Discord, snowpeckgames.com/Discord, link in the description below. Anyway, that's all I've got. So thanks for following along with this project, and see you next time. Bye-bye.